If you're watching this video, I assume you're struggling with studying maths. So I'm just going to get right into it. My name's Jamie. I'm here to boost your grade, and I'm going to give you 3 points of key advice today. And then I want to mention something else at the end, but you're going to have to stay tuned for that. So, first point I want to make here is that you should build an intuition when it comes to studying maths. So, what I mean by intuition is not just jumping into problems, not just applying the formula that you learned in class or from your notes or from your lecturer, but actually understanding why you're applying that formula, understanding what the formula actually means. So, for example, if you were using Pythagoras' theorem, you can learn that it's a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, but it's much better to understand how that applies to the geometry of the triangle, understanding that c represents the hypotenuse, or if you want to get a little bit more geometric, the side opposite the right angle, or in this case, the largest angle within the triangle. So you can link that into your geometry theorems then as well. You have to visualize problems sometimes as well, like trigonometry problems or geometry, coordinate geometry, and so on. It helps to draw a diagram, even if it's just a mechanics problem in your applied maths or in your A-level mechanics paper. You have to be able to visualize what's actually going on. So sometimes drawing diagrams will help massively. And also just being able to break down the concepts in general. So be capable of explaining a topic to another person who might not be able to tackle such questions. If you're able to teach someone else, not only does this reinforce your own learning, but it also lets you know that you actually understand deeply what's going on. Well, that's my first point right there. My second point is to practice, practice, and then do even more practice. So one thing I want to say is that it's a very good idea to just solve as many questions and as many problems as possible. If your lecturer gives you extra problem sets or your teacher gives you extra optional homework, make sure to do it. Practice more and more problems because that's the only way you're going to get good at maths is if you practice, practice, and then do even more practice. So, as I said, the key is to solve problems in maths. You should start with the easier questions and the worked examples, the ones that you can actually see the solutions of to build some confidence and to understand the theorems, understand the ideas, understand what's actually going on. And as I said, build an intuition. When you've got those down, you should start attempting questions from the book. Usually the ones more towards the start of the chapter are a bit easier, but as you go further on towards the end of the chapter questions, they're going to get a bit harder. And then eventually the last few questions we all know are quite hard. You can also work on past exam questions, which I heavily advise you do, because no matter what exam you're doing, junior cert, leaving cert, GCSEs, A levels, even the SATs, whatever exam you're doing, college exams, the closest thing you will get to your exam is the past exam papers themselves. So as I said, there were two past papers. They're an absolute gold mine for practice. They're the kinds of questions that will come up on your exam. And timing yourself isn't a bad idea either. It's great if you're able to understand all of the questions and work through them at your own pace. But if you can't finish within the time restraint of the exam, you can't get the marks that you should be getting. So make sure you time yourself as well. It's kind of a bonus tip there, just so you're not dragging on, wasting and losing valuable, precious time in your exam. And finally, most important point to practicing is to not skip your mistakes. If you make a mistake on a maths question, that question is so much more important than all of the questions you got right. Because what that tells you is that you need to work on that area. I understand it's quite easy to say focus on algebra or focus on differentiation when, say, you might struggle with integration or you might struggle with a number of other topics. Well, in that case, I understand why you'd want to do the topics that you find easier, but at the end of the day, it's so much more important that you focus on your weak points and focus on the topics that are much harder for you to do. Okay, well, that's that. I also think that another important point is to ask questions and more importantly, just bridge the gaps in your knowledge. So if you're stuck, you should absolutely seek help. If it's your college lecturer, if it's your school teacher, if it's your private maths tutor, if it's even ChatGPT, make sure to ask questions so you can bridge the understanding. Maybe you have to consult a textbook. Maybe if you're testing yourself, I understand you want to do it under test conditions. But after you're done that test, you should read through the textbook. You should skim through your formula book just to understand why did I get this wrong? Or even still, I got this question right, but I don't know why. It's better to build your intuition and it's better for your practice. You should clarify your doubts early on as well. Don't wait until just before the exam to brush up on your algebra skills when you're trying to sit a calculus exam. If your fundamentals aren't there, you're simply not going to understand more complex stuff. So it's important that as soon as you possibly can, you understand all of the concepts and all of the key ideas that are going on in your material. And as I said, just a bonus point, you can use ChatGPT for this. And if you don't have access to a tutor at the moment, or maybe it's too expensive at the moment, maybe it's just not that urgent, you can always ask ChatGPT. If you're struggling with, say, quadratic equations, say you're doing your GCSEs or your junior cert maths, you're struggling with solving quadratic equations, you can just ask ChatGPT to give you a step-by-step breakdown, ask it to help you with examples, even in some cases, work through examples that you can solve yourself, or examples that aren't already worked through in your textbook. But I will give you a bit of a warning here. ChatGPT is not a mathematician. It can be wrong, and sometimes it can be very, very wrong. So just be careful when you're using ChatGPT. Okay, those are my 3 points of advice for studying maths. If you want more, make sure to like this video, make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment how it helped you down below. And as always, as I've got on the screen right now, if you want tutoring at Leaving Cert, Junior Cycle, GCSE, or A-level maths, even if you just want some college tutoring on Calculus 1, Calculus 2, or linear algebra, make sure to DM us on Instagram or TikTok, or you can email us at leavingcertg@gmail.com. I hope this video has helped, and I'll see you all the next time.